haven't done. Where the fuck's my phone? What's there? Hello. I'm really hoping that swearing wasn't live. I think it might have been. Oops. Hi. I'm just getting my YouTube up so I can see any comments or questions that come in. Right. Hello, everybody. It's a bit warm here. I'm in Malvern. I'm hoping the weather's nice where you are as well, but it is warm. It's kind of really muggy. It's not particularly blue sky, but it is just muggy and warm and things. Where are you all at? Let me know where you are, and then I can also check that the comments are working as well, because I'm not in YouTube. I'm in something called StreamYard, which allows me to do all these things. So I need to actually check that you guys can see me. Hi, I tell you when I'm not swearing, and I'm also making sure that I can see any comments or whatever that you are doing. And let me know where you are and how your day is. Whilst I'm waiting for people to join, I've got a couple of things to tell you about. So the first one is the Malvern show is on. So this is a fun one this weekend. It's at the Western Motorhome show, which they have made country and western theme. See what they did there? See what they did there? And it's quite cool. So there's loads of people wandering around in like cowboy hats, and there's going to be like a best dressed Westerner competition. And they did line dancing this evening, which I really wanted to do, but I couldn't because I had to be here. Although, to be fair, given how sweaty I am right now, I could have done it, and you probably wouldn't have made any difference whatsoever. So hello, let me do a quick few shout outs. Hello, Swifty Zeppelin. Hello, Adam Smith. Hello, Paul Riddle. Hello, Winterized. Hello, Leslie. There's a few. I don't know if there's anybody else coming in. I'm a couple of seconds behind you guys, so I will just check on there. So yeah, Malvern show. If you are anywhere near or you want a fun day out and want to come and see some vans, see some talks from people like me and Life Beyond Bricks, and then there's all sorts of fun stuff going on. Loads of live music. The live music is going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it this weekend. Loads of food, also very important, and there's like an unbelievable number of vans here. I think I read somewhere it's like 5,000-6,000, something ridiculous. It's huge, absolutely huge. So it's going to be a really good fun weekend. So if you're there, you can still buy tickets on the door. I don't think you can buy discounted tickets anymore, but just turn up and see if there are things available. The other thing that is going on that starts on Monday is I'm part of a summit called the Ultimate Travel Summit. And if you don't know what a summit is, it's basically, I think there's 20 different speakers all talking about different travel. So I'm talking about van life, obviously, and things that I wish I'd known before I moved into a van full time. But there are people talking about how to save money when you're traveling, how to get cheap flights, how to get paid to travel. That was a talk I saw that I was like, oh, cool. Some people are talking about how to start a blog or how to start a YouTube channel and get paid to that. So it's called the Ultimate Travel Summit. I'm going to stick the link in because it's free. There we go. There we go. That's come up now. So if you type that in, it's not going to be clickable, sorry. But if you type that in, take a screenshot, type that in, you can get free tickets. Alternatively, keep it out on my social media and I will share the link either tonight or tomorrow for you. So you can get in that. So yeah, there are like 20 talks over the next 5 days next week. And they're all free to attend. And yeah, you can get some really good tips on traveling and stuff. So I'm quite excited to be part of that. There's some really good ones that I want to watch, which will be fun. I've been chatting to Leah, lovely Leah, who's in the background today. She's doing moderation and checking all your comments and things and finding any questions for me to answer later. And we've been singing Sweet Caroline and other various songs. And I've just got the football thing going over and over and over in my head. Oh, that reminds me, if you are coming to Malvern, and you're coming to the talks on Sunday, all the times have changed because I emailed the organisers after we got through to the World Cup final. And I was like, all my talks are on when the football's on. So they've moved them all. So you can come and watch football live as well. It'll be a really good fun atmosphere in there. And then all the talks can change. So watch the social media. I'll put it on Instagram and on Facebook for the new ones. And I think an email went out this afternoon as well for those of you who already got tickets. So just make sure that you know the new times for any talk if you want to do them. So that's quite exciting. I'm looking forward to the football. That will be fun. Right, let me dive in to a couple of the other things that I was going to talk about. Hang on, I've seen lots of things pop up there. Hi Rick, hi Peter, hi Izzy. Oh no, I'm sorry you're ill, Izzy. That's a shame. Where are you from in Devon? My parents are down that way. Hi Suzanne. Hi, oh god, hang on, it keeps jumping, Wild Oak's handcrafted product. Now that sounds fun. What kind of Wild Oak handcrafted products do you make? Hi, Nikki Berry. So I was chatting to a couple of people today and they were like, your last live was in Iceland. And it was, my last live was in, how weird is that to say that? So I thought I'd catch you guys all up with what happened since then. So obviously I got back on the ferry. What did I do? I think I was by the Glacier Lagoon, wasn't I? And the Diamond Beach. That was amazing. If you've never been, Iceland is just like a van lifer's dream. It's not got the same freedoms as Norway, so you can't wild camp everywhere. But you just can turn up at the campsites, and they're like normal proper campsites, but you can turn up at like 11 o'clock at night or like 2 o'clock in the morning. And that's the cool thing with the perpetual sun, is that you can kind of stay and do all that stuff, and you can just do it whenever you like. So there's no like, you've got to be in by 7 p.m. and all of that thing. So that was really quite cool fun. Iceland's just magic. And then where did I go after the Glacier Lagoon? I carried on back around. There wasn't a huge amount on that side. So I did a live lava show in Vic, which was really cool. Well, really hot, actually. It was like ridiculous degrees. And I left the day before the volcano erupted, which I was a bit gutted about. If I'd known it was going to erupt, I'd have probably stayed and changed my ferry, but hey, never mind. And then, yeah, I did 5,500 miles in 5 weeks. Does anybody else do crazy amounts of mileage and driving? Because it's just, yeah, it was a lot. I came back and I was like, I'm knackered. I'm so tired. I'm so tired there. I see a question there from Rick. What's the score of traveling to Spain with the new paperwork? Do you want to expand on the new paperwork for me so that I know what you're talking about? And then I will we'll make sure that we get to that later. Right. Let me dive into some of these questions. I don't know if I've missed oh God, no, I have missed quite a few of you. Sorry. Apologies if I missed you. Hi, Marty. Hi, Vindloni. Oh, from Denmark. Hi, Brian in Brisbane. Hi, John. Hi, Caroline. I'm very well, thank you, Caroline. I'm doing all right. Yeah, a bit warm, a bit muggy, but I'm all good. Right, let me answer some of your questions. So, question that I got, which I'm going to change my answer to, that I've been asked before, but I'm actually going to be a little bit different on this one, is left-hand drive or right-hand drive in Europe. Now, normally I say it doesn't matter. And in terms of actually driving, it doesn't matter in the slightest. I've driven all around Europe. I've got a right-hand drive. The Bailey motorhome had a right-hand drive. Standard, doesn't matter. There's only 2 times really that it makes any difference. That is when you're trying to overtake, especially if you're on your own, you don't have anybody sitting in the passenger seat, because you've got to go right out into the road, and there's this moment of terror when you don't know if something's coming the other way. That makes it quite tough if you're on a right-hand drive. Or when you get to like a toll booth, or you get and you don't have a toll pass, or you get to like a payment meter and it's on the other side, and you have to do the sort of run of death. And you either get out and you run around the front and you pay the thing, and then you run back in and the barrier's gone up and you don't know if you can do that. Or you do the other thing where you put the window down and you kind of lean out like a crazy person, and then you find that you've got stuck and you have to kind of heave yourself back up again before you can drive off. They're all very elegant. So yeah, that's kind of fun. But normally I'd say it doesn't matter. But in Belgium, on the way back from Iceland, there was a really weird situation that's never happened before. I was in an air, and airs sometimes have like a little patch of grass, a little bit like a campsite, and that's your patch of grass. And this guy, so everybody was facing forwards. So I pulled in forward, but obviously my door was on the opposite side to all of theirs. And this guy came over, nothing to do with the air, just another random user. And he was like, you're parked the wrong way, your door is on the wrong way. Now, I'd parked in the middle of about 3 different spare bays, so I wasn't like encroaching on somebody else's bit of grass. But he got really stroppy about it. If you put your awning out, you'll be on the wrong side. I'm not going to put my awning out. But that was the only time that's ever happened. So if you do have an UK hab door, be aware when you park at an air that if there's like a little patch of grass that's that side van, you're going to have to park the opposite way to everybody else. But otherwise, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, that was just something fun that that happened to me that was new and different. Right, lots and lots of questions about Europe travel, and specifically about things like tolls and vignettes and criteria stickers, and traveling with dogs is still a thing, and the 90-day rule, that's still a thing. So I thought I'd do a live, whiz through a load of those. If you have got any questions that got nothing to do with that, no worries, drop them in the chat and we will get to them, I promise. But let me just try and group some of these Europe questions, and if you've got any, by all means, try and ask. I see a couple of them that are going to be relevant. So I will get to them as and when we can. But let me just dive through some of the things. So this all started, if you're on my email list, you will have got an email this morning all about tolls and vignettes and quitter stickers and the differences, because so many people have been confused about the whole thing, and I get it. If you're not on my email list, you can join. There will be a link somewhere on my YouTube channel, in like my about or one of my recent videos. There'll be a link to join my email list, and you can get all these tips in your email once or twice a week. And the thing to remember is that there are two different types of charges to pay when you are touring around Europe. One is to pay for the roads, and then one is to pay for the air. And I'm really oversimplifying it in the hope that it might make sense. So there are tolls or vignettes to pay to use the roads. So every country pretty much in Europe charges to use at least some of the road network. Like France uses tolls, but not every single main road in France has a toll on it. But that's how they charge you to use their main road network. So you just pay for that either by card or by cash on the toll booth. That was a question somebody asked me, was how does that process work? It's quite, if you've never used the M6 toll in the M6, funnily enough, just north of Birmingham, it's that sort of thing. But if you've not used that, you literally pull up into the booth. Now, if you're paying by card or cash, look for one with a little man or the card symbol, because that's how you'll be able to pay by card or by cash. And I don't recommend you use Amex. Try and use something like a MasterCard or Visa debit card. And if you can, try and use an account that doesn't charge you fees. So I've moved on to Starling, which is brilliant. I really wish I had an affiliate link for them because I've got so many people on them. It's great. But they don't charge you any fees. So all the time that I went round up through Europe, then over into Iceland and everything, no fees at all for that. And yet I paid all my fuel on, I can't remember whether I used my Halifax or whether I used my American Express card, and I got fees on there. So that was silly. But Starling, none at all. But yeah, if you use that for when you are on the toll thing and go to the little man, and you'll be able to pay. If you have a toll pass, there's normally a big T, which means that you can do the toll pass. Now, assuming you're in a motorhome or a larger vehicle like that, try and go to the outside lane, because that's where the lorries go. If you go to the ones closest to the barrier, you'll often find they've got height restriction on them, so they're normally for cars. So if you go to the ones on the far, it'll be on the far right, in your far outside bit, you'll often find that those are toll pass lanes, but for the lorries, and those mean that you slow down to about 30 kilometers an hour, and you can just go through if you've got a toll pass that works, and it will beep and the barrier will come up, and it's all very magical. So that's how the tolls work. Occasionally you'll get a person, and then you might have a strange thing where they have to measure your thing. To be fair, they have an automated system sometimes that measures your van. And if you're above 3.05 meters, they might try and put you in the above category. You can press the little buzzer, and then somebody will hopefully answer, and you can say that you are category 2, not category 4, and they should reduce the price for you if you are slightly higher than that. But unfortunately, it doesn't always work. So that was about tolls. Now, if the countries that don't have a toll system, the two that spring to mind that the most common are Switzerland and Austria, they charge a vignette to drive on their main roads. Now, these are only for the main major roads, unless you're over 3.5 tons, but we'll get to that shortly. And that means that you have to pay have a vignette. Now, it used to be a physical sticker, and I've still got them stuck on the windscreen trying to get them off. The website, I think it's the Swiss website, actually says how you remove them is with a razor blade and patience, and they're not wrong. It takes forever to get them off. But now both countries now offer a digital vignette, or an e-vignette, I think Switzerland calls it, which is really cool. So you can get that via the Via app for Switzerland, or online for the Austria app. If you just go onto the Austrian main country webpage, you'll be able to find the link to that, and you can actually buy the vignette. Now, the vignette for the tolls, you don't need to get in advance. You can get them at the borders. So Switzerland, they often have manned borders, but if you've done it on the app, you can just show them that you've got the vignette, and you'll be allowed to drive straight through. And I'm assuming, I haven't done the Austria one yet since that all came in, but I'm assuming that's the same thing. The fun comes when you're over 3.5 tons. So the situation used to be a real pain in the backside. If you're over 3.5 tons, then you had to do a load of paperwork and everything else. The problem with much of Europe is that anything over 3.5 tons tends to be a commercial vehicle. And we all know that's not the case, but in the sort of authorities' eyes, if it's over 3.5 tons, you go into a commercial category. So often when they say over 3.5 tons, they don't mean private motorhomes. They just mean a commercial vehicle. So there's a lot of times where you can approach the authorities and say, I'm 3.8 tons. Are you happy with this? And they'll say yes. Things like the toll pass for Emovis. And on the Emovis website, they often say nothing above 3.5 tons. But actually, if you contact them and say, I'm a private motorhome registered in the UK, I'm 3.8 or upplated to whatever you are, will you provide me with a toll pass? They often say yes. So it's kind of a bit frustrating. But if you want to go by the letter of the law, in Switzerland, there's an app, the Via app, and if you're over 3.5 tons, you can actually say that, and you pay per day, I think it is, to go on the main roads. And in Austria, you can get something called the Go Box. Now you can actually get those from the borders as well, and they're like a little Go Box, exactly what it says on the tin. And you can either pay for a year, you can pay for 2 months, or you can pay for 10 days. And that will allow you to use the major roads to go through those countries. So it's not that complicated. But the problem comes, because those are vignettes for the road, the problem comes with the critter stickers, which are often called vignettes as well. So people then are like, I need a vignette, but I've got a vignette for Switzerland, and then they're saying that I don't. And yeah, so there are two different types. One is for roads, one is for the clean air. You do not need a clean air sticker. I'm going to call it clean air stickers, even though they're often called vignettes, but just for the sake of making it easy, you do not need a clean air sticker if you're not going to go into a zone. So I've just driven all the way to the top of Denmark and then into Iceland and all the way back and didn't have a single clean air sticker because I didn't go into any clean air zones. The problem is the zones are expanding just like they are in the UK. So there is a chance that if you travel a lot in Europe, you will at some point infringe a zone or want to go somewhere that is now in a zone. So you need one sticker per country. No, that's not true. You need a sticker for France and Germany. Italy, I think Spain have actually got different zones like we do in the UK. So you have to pay per zone that you go in instead of just getting one sticker which covers the country, which is crazy, but still. But for France and Germany, it's really straightforward. Let me get this right. I think France's colours and Germany's numbers. It could be the other way round, but it's based on your emissions. So a question that I got asked is, do you need to show your certificate of conformity to get a vignette to drive in Switzerland? No. Because your certificate of conformity is when you're importing a vehicle into Europe and it's all about your emissions, mostly about your emissions, but that's when you need the certificate of conformity for. You don't need to show that. It's got nothing to do with the emissions. It's got nothing to do with driving on the roads. I hope that makes sense. They're two totally different things. The website that I always use to find out where the zones are is called Urban Access Regulations. I think I put a little sticker on this. Hang on, bear with me. Technology, I can see all your things. Sorry, no, it didn't come in. I will link that again below this when it comes. It's urbanaccessregulations.eu, I think, and they're brilliant because they show you all the zones across Europe. And I think they've got the UK on them as well. And then it will show you all the different things and whether it applies to you, because not every zone applies to everything. Some of them are like closed from certain times, based on your weight or your size or your emissions or whatever. And others, you just got to pay a fee if you want to go into them. So they are two different things. I hope that helps. I think I've answered all those questions about them. Let me just check. Oh, and the other thing I was going to mention was Via Michelin, which is a brilliant website that I use to find out the amount on tolls, how much tolls will cost. Now, it does it for cars. It doesn't do it so much for motorhomes, but you can get a rough idea on if that route's more expensive than that route or whatever. So I don't as yet know. Somebody asked me, do I know an app or a website that will do it for the cost of motorhomes? And I don't. If anybody else does know one, then by all means, please drop a link in if they know of an app that tells you the exact things. Right, loads of questions here. I'm sorry. Let's go through them. How is Mac? I'll show you how Mac is. Mac is asleep. Mac, we've spent the last 4 days down in Breen on near Weston-super-Mare. Basically, it's the most beautiful campsite. It was in the middle of a meadow, which can be hit or miss in the middle of August, whether there's lots of kids running around and screaming. But actually, it was really good. But there's a beach there. that for dogs is magic. It's not brilliant for swimming if you enjoy sea swimming, because it's so shallow, but it goes up to basically went up to about his chest, and as he's only got baby legs. But yeah, it was fab. I spent 4 days there and it was absolutely brilliant. So he was a bit sulky today. He's like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. Paul, any thoughts about changing the motorhome? Well, my motorhome, I always have thoughts about changing my motorhome, but at the moment I'm going to go to the NEC with an open mind. The problem is I really quite like the layout and what I've done with the van at the moment, but I'm not going to say no, because we all know that at some point I'll probably change it. I just don't know what for yet. The problem I had, and I don't know if you've seen the Bailey review video I really liked the Bailey review video, because I've got a middle bathroom. My brain broke then. So I've got a middle bathroom, so it feels, you kind of walk into a wall, and the Bailey is just this humongous space. It was brilliant, and I really liked that. But because I work from the van as well, I quite like having like a bed and a works area, like this seating area, rather than just having it all in one space. So I don't think that was for me long term, but it was really nice for a few weeks having a bit of a change. Right, Peter, if I travel to Ireland, can I go to a local vet to get the answer is yes. You can still find vets that will issue you an EU pet passport. There are a couple of downsides that you need to be aware of. The biggest one is that so Matt still has a French pet passport, because we got stuck over there in lockdown, so he ended up having a French pet passport. And I'll be honest, I am very much debating keeping it for as long as I possibly can, but you've got to renew it by going over there once a year or so. So I've got to figure that out somehow. But he is now a French dog. He's on the French registered dog, and we've still got insurance for him over in France. So if anything happens to him, he's a French dog. If you do that and you become an EU pet passport holder, your pet has to be on that registry for it to count. So at some point, they're going to get wise to this and clink on that. So I know a lot of people have got the EU pet passports, and at the moment it's fine. But I think at some point they're going to be checking whether they are registered as well on that actual directory. So when you do it, you need to ask the vet whether you need to be registered on that country or not. I don't know about Ireland, because Ireland and the UK, I'm assuming you mean Southern Ireland, of course. Ireland and the UK have an agreement with pets. So if you can get an Irish passport, you might find that a lot easier. But I have never done that. So that would be something you'd have to find out about in Ireland. I wouldn't want to give you awful advice. Hello, next door, Life Beyond Bricks. We're both parked up next to each other at the show, because we're both talking tomorrow. So that will be fun. So bless them. Earlier, if you don't know Life Beyond Bricks, Tash and John, they travel with 3 cats in their van. And earlier we had some sort of standoff, because Mac was on a lead and he was going all crazy, as he does, because he's a spaniel. And I hadn't realised one of their cats was outside, and she was like, what is this thing? Why is this thing in my space? And they were having sort of a Mexican standoff. It was quite funny. Visa, I hope I pronounced that right. Hello from Finland. Martin, what would they do if you didn't pay? I'm assuming you mean for the tolls or the vignettes. So the tolls you have to pay as you go. The barrier doesn't lift up if you don't pay. That's fairly straightforward. The vignettes, they've got really, really steep charge fine. So the vignettes are on they're registered on your blimey, my brain's not working, registration number. So I'm assuming there were cameras, and then they look to see if you've got a vignette. And when you've got a physical vignette, it has to be placed very specifically on your windscreen. And this was one of the problems with the physical vignettes. So they often lasted just over a year. Talking about Switzerland one mainly. If your windscreen broke and you need to get your windscreen replaced, you'd lose that vignette because you couldn't take it off and then re-stick it. So the e-vignettes are a bit better than that. But if you don't pay, you'll get fined, I think, unless you're talking about the going into the zones. I think it's the same thing. I think they check to see if you've done, and if not, you will get fined. Martin, I was confused too. Yeah. We'd like to do the World War I stuff in Belgium. We like to have difficulty in finding campsites. That is a question that I've also got on my list of things to answer, is finding campsites in winter. And I know a lot of people now are planning sort of out of summer holidays adventures, which is kind of fun. But how do you find campsites? Now, the easiest thing to do is use airs. Airs don't, unless you go right up into the mountains and they all get snow, and even then they're the whole thing. In fact, you want to talk to Hannah from Winterize if you're talking about airs up in the mountains for ski resorts. That's a whole other thing. But airs don't shut throughout winter at all. So they're easy, they're open all the time. So my advice would always be use those because they're easy. If you want to find campsites, there are a couple of ways that you can do it. One is you're traveling out of season. I highly recommend you get an ACSI camping card. And once you've done that, you can look on their website. I think they might be open anyway, but you can see campsites that are open all year, or certainly open within the dates. So that you can put in the dates, put in the country, and it'll show you campsites that are open for that period. So that's one of the main ways that I use. You've also got the Caravan and Motorhome Club. They've got overseas campsites that are open throughout the winter period. Not all of them open all the time, but again, you can find that out on their website. And then the other one that I've used in the past is PitchUp. And I think there's one called campsites.com that I've used as well. And they will show you campsites overseas where you can see if they are open or not when you go. So I hope that helps. I hope you have an awesome. I really want to do the World War I stuff as well. You've got to do EAPS. EAPS is amazing, and do the Men in Gate ceremony. That was just incredible. Tinkerbell is intrigued with Mac. Absolutely. Right, let me go through some of these questions that people have emailed me today. Can you avoid going, so they're traveling from Luxembourg down to Split. This is Kev. Luxembourg down to Split, back to Calais. Can you avoid all tolls and vignettes by putting avoid tolls and motorways in your sat nav? Is it doable if you're not in any rush? Yes, you can. You can absolutely travel all over the place by putting avoid tolls and motorways in your sat nav. Just remember that if you are going into somewhere like Switzerland or Austria, that won't come up as a toll. So you'll still have to pay that if you do that, or you need to detour around the country entirely. Or, to be fair, if your motorhome is under 3.5 tons, you can use the smaller roads in Switzerland and Austria without an issue. Hi, I'm looking for advice on the procedure of taking my dogs to Europe with me. It all sounds like a lot of hassle. Yeah, it is. What's the actual process? Oh my goodness. Okay. English dog. Let's forget the fact that for now he's got a French passport. English dog. He's got to go to the vet, have all his normal basic jabs. Then he has to go and have a rabies jab at least 21 days before you're traveling into Europe. You can have it months beforehand. It doesn't have to be 21 days, but at least 21 clear days before you travel. Then he needs to have, he also needs a microchip. I'm assuming most animals have got them now, but if not, you've got to have those. And then you go to the vet and they check the microchip, they check all the paperwork's in order, they check his rabies jab, and they will give you an animal health certificate that is then valid for 4 months, linked to the dog. And you pay for that. The cheapest ones that we know of are down in Dover. That's about £90 per pet, although you can then add it on. So the next time you go, it gets a little bit cheaper. And I think they do a deal as well. If you have a second pet, it's like 30 or whatever. But for the first pet, it's about £90. Most vets are charging about 110-ish, and then a little bit more for any second or third pets that you've got. And then you go into Europe. So that's really straightforward. On the way back, you need to get a tapeworm administered to your dog. This doesn't apply to cats, it's just for dogs, before you come back in. So that's 1 to 5 days before you travel back over the border. And that can be a pain, but if you find a vet anywhere in, I would say, the northern half of France, they're not stupid. They've done this many, many, many times. You don't even need to book that far in advance. I've done it. Last one I did, a couple of years ago now, was in Croatia. I don't speak any of that language. So I literally went with my passport and Mac, walked into a nearby vet that we were going to stay near campsite one for a couple of days, and was like, Angleterre? And she was like, okay, and spoke amazing English back to me. I got lucky. But yeah, so she wrote down a time for me to come back the next day. Came back, it took 10 minutes. They give them a tapeworm, make sure they stamp the passport or the animal health certificate, and then you come back. It's not that complicated once you've done it, but I admit when you haven't done it before, it does sound a bit overwhelming and a bit complicated. How do I update my France Critère sticker? Does it last for the life of the vehicle? Yes, it does last for the life of the vehicle. So once you've got it, you have got it. if you buy a vehicle that's got a Critter sticker on it, it doesn't cost very much. I think it's a few euros, so you can always get a new one if you want to be absolutely sure that it's registered in your name on your vehicle. But otherwise, they last for certainly the French ones last for the life of the vehicle. Do you need an angle more sticker for vehicles under 3.5 tons? No, you do not. You also don't need angle more stickers for over 3.5 tons if you're not going into a built up area. So the angle more stickers are the very flattering yellow and red stickers that you have to put on your big motorhomes in France. But if you're just coming straight off the tunnel or off the ferry and going straight across into like Belgium or Germany, and you're not really driving through any built up areas, you don't need them on your vehicle. How do I temporarily import my vehicle into Iceland for a holiday? What paperwork did you have to provide? I didn't temporarily import my vehicle into Iceland. And I would suggest if you're just taking your vehicle to Iceland for holiday, you're looking at the wrong thing. You don't want to be temporarily importing your vehicle into anything. The only thing I had to do was provide my registration number to the ferry. Nobody even checked my passport when I got to Iceland. No, I was like, nobody checked my passport from arriving in France until I got back to the French-English border. Like nobody knew I'd gone to Iceland. It was really bizarre. So yeah, no, there was no paperwork, there was no nothing. If you're just taking a vehicle to Iceland for a holiday like I did, I was there for 3 weeks and then came back again, you don't want to temporarily import your vehicle. You're looking at the wrong thing. Yeah, no, don't do that. That could cost you a fortune. You end up having to pay percentages of the vehicles and all sorts. Jan asked, what about long-term travel insurance? We want to go 90 days in Europe, then into Morocco and then back again. Ooh. So the company that I know that does long-term travel insurance, there's a couple I know. World Nomads do one, but also Insure and Go is one I used to use. Might still use. Can't remember who I use for insurance at the moment, but I definitely have used them and I still might be, who knows. But they do long-term traveling insurance. What I don't know is whether they will cover you in Morocco. I would assume they do, but you would need to check with that. I have answered Marilyn's about finding campsites all year. Paul, how do you enter French and Spanish postcodes in your English sat nav? See, I get this because it confused me as well. When you go into the settings of your sat nav, you need to change the country. So if you are, obviously, I'm assuming you're based in the UK, you've got it all set up for England or the UK or wherever. When you're going into France, you change the actual country to France, and then you'll be able to put in French postcodes. And the same for if you go into Spain or anything like that, you have to change the actual thing. And I also got a really random email from, I haven't written down the name. He's driving with his English sat nav in France, and it's telling him he needs the third exit of the roundabout, but he's going on the first exit because it goes the other way around. That's never happened to me before. I don't know if it's happened to any of you, but it's never happened to me at all. So I don't know whether, again, you might need to change the country that you're in, but surely if it knows where you are, it knows that you're in France. So that is very odd. Maybe it needs an update would be what I would recommend for that one, because that's not happened to me at all. Andrew, we're doing a big tour of Europe. How far in advance do we need to book campsites? We've only booked the first night and we're worried we've not booked enough. It's a really good question, and the reason that it's not that straightforward is you haven't said when you're planning on traveling or where you're planning on traveling to. So again, airs would be my answer for that if you're comfortable using them, because you don't need to book airs. In fact, you can't book airs in advance, so that's why it's so great. Everybody has got the same chance of getting a space at an air. They're brilliant. I love them. If you're going somewhere really popular like Paris, Euro Disney, the Italian lakes, which we messed up, and you want to go in either school holidays or some of the like Christmas time at Paris is nuts, then you might want to look at booking those campsites in advance, as far in advance as you possibly can. But if you are not so fussed about exactly where you go and you're quite happy to wander and meander and make it up, I'm sorry, puppy dog. then you don't need to put them that far in advance, especially if you're not traveling in the school holidays. The only other thing would be if you are traveling in the school holidays and you want something like a beach or a kids club or surfing lessons or something like that, then I would book them up. But otherwise, I wouldn't worry about it at all. I didn't book a thing on my trip. And in fact, I didn't book anything through Iceland either, apart from the one just the night before I was coming back, because I knew obviously I was going to be coming back on the ferry early in the morning and I was going to be in that area. But yeah, the thing with Europe is it's so much bigger than the UK. They have so much more space, and they like providing spaces for motorhomes and camper vans to go. It's a lot easier than we are used to in the UK. I know, especially in the summer, it's a scrabble trying to find places near where you actually want to be. In Europe, I haven't found it to be anywhere near that difficult. So I hope that makes you feel a little bit better. Right, let me come back and check some of these. How do we get the Clean Air Cert for France, and how do I find out what colour do I need to get? Now, do you know what? I'm actually going to buy a Clean Air Cert for France because I don't have one on this van yet. So at some point, I'm going to do it. I will film it. I might even try and do it live, which could be hilarious. And maybe I'll put a warning on there that don't watch this if you're not happy with swearing, because I can't guarantee what will come out of my mouth. But maybe I'll try and do that at some point and see actually how difficult or complicated it is, because I cannot believe it is that complicated. But I know a lot of people seem to have issues with it. So I might try and do that. Watch this space. Peter, what phone mobile network do you recommend for mobile data in the EU? Somebody asked this question in my Facebook group today or yesterday about data in the EU. And there were some fantastic ones in there that I'd not heard of yet. So I'm going to do some more research into this, because since Brexit and the rules changed and people started charging for roaming again, there have been a couple of networks emerge who just provide data. So you can't make calls and texts and all that stuff. It's just for like surfing the internet. And there are a couple in there that I really want to check out. But at the moment, I've got my phone is on Vodafone and my Wi-Fi dongle is on EE. And I took the Wi-Fi dongle over to Iceland with me and it ran out of data. Now, the problem is, contrary to most people, I work from the van as I'm traveling, so I'm either updating the website or creating YouTube videos or on the internet all the time, both on my phone and on my actual laptop. So I use a ridiculous amount of data, way more than people would do. If you've got a phone contract from before Brexit happened, you should be able to get a decent amount of data on that already. And I would suggest either of those two networks, Vodafone or EE. If you've got those already and you've got decent contracts, I would leave them. If you want a more recent contract than that, then I'd probably still recommend them, but I don't think they are as competitive as they used to be. And I think there are a couple of other ones out there. So I'm going to do some research and I will publish it in my emails for you when I've done a bit of research on that. Iceland is in the Schengen. Yeah, no, it is. Absolutely it is. So my whole trip, when I entered into France, the day I entered France and then the day I left in France, was all part of my 90 days. I know that. Yeah, it's totally in the Schengen area, but nobody actually knew which country I was in, although they would have done because I boarded the ferry and I gave them my reg. But it's just fascinating that you can get all the way up there and nobody checks. Jana says, hello from Finland. Second time. We traveled with two cats, thinking about going to UK and Ireland. How is the weather normally there in September? Go on then, guys. What's the weather like in the UK in September? September is actually one of my favourite times to tour the UK because all of the kids have gone back to school. So places are a little bit quieter than they are in July and August, but you've still got mostly nicer weather. So I don't think that you haven't said exactly where you're planning on going in the UK. Ireland will be Ireland and Scotland. You want layers. So I don't know if you saw any of my island trip from when I went in March and April earlier this year. But literally in the morning, it was blazing sunshine. It was lovely. And then by the afternoon, there was hail and snow and it was just crazy. So Ireland and Scotland, any time of the year, you're probably going to get some rain at some point, but you also might get sunshine in September, and the water will be quite warm at the beaches and stuff. So that should be quite a good time to do that. England and Wales, it's probably about the same, to be fair. You're not going to get 3 or 4 weeks of beautiful blazing sunshine, but it shouldn't be 3 or 4 weeks of a lot of rain, although we haven't had the best summer. So who knows, frankly, who knows what's going to happen this autumn. Where's everybody planning on traveling? Is anyone planning any big trips for the autumn? I don't know what I'm going to do. I've got myself in a bit of a pickle with time. I was planning on going to France, but I've got a couple of things coming up in September, so I haven't got enough of a window. And then I was planning on going to Spain. I still think I will, but I think I'm going to go after the NEC show. And the NEC show tickets are out, by the way. I have got a link for that, but I haven't got it with me. So at some point, but they're out. Buy the tickets before they sell out. Hannah from Winter Eye says you can book a few airs in the ski resorts. Yes, you can at winter time. Do you know what time of year they start being allowed to book? Because normally you can't book any airs at all. Peter, what about buying a local 1 month sim? Yeah, absolutely. So if you're going to go for as long as a month, or you're going to go for a long period of time, then yeah, you can absolutely buy a sim. Just make sure you buy the right type of sim. So you can buy them often in the supermarkets, but sometimes they're mainly for phone calls and texts, and they don't always have a huge amount of data. So you want to make sure you know exactly what you are buying. France and Spain in the autumn. Yeah. So I wouldn't worry about sort of leaving the UK to about November time. I reckon September's a good time to come to the UK. I think that's quite cool. Right, I'm going to pop back to, I had a couple of other questions here. So this one was fun. What do you do at a weighbridge if you are overweight? So a couple of times that I've been to a weighbridge, the van has been overweight. Now, my tip when you go to a weighbridge, I think the person who asked was worried that they wouldn't let you leave if you were overweight without having to get rid of some of your stuff. It's really important to be clear that if you have an accident and your vehicle is found to be overweight, your insurance is invalid. So I'm not suggesting that you drive knowing that you're going to be overweight. If you are worried about being overweight, empty out your water tanks as much as you possibly can, go low fuel, so the risk of you being actually overweight when you get to the weighbridge is really minimal. And then what you'll have to do is do the calculation on how big your water tank is, how much that weighs, and then add that to what you've got. So that would be my suggestion if you think you might be overweight. But when you go to a weighbridge, certainly the ones that I've been to in England, you don't go in and ask them, am I overweight? Because then they'll want to know your maximum weight. What you do is say, can you weigh my vehicle? And then you pay them the fee. And then they'll give you 3 weights. They give you the total weight of the vehicle, front axle, rear axle, and you kind of move on and off the plate. And by doing that, you'll get the weights, but they won't be compelled to know what your maximum weight is, which might sound a bit underhanded, and I don't mean it to be, but don't give them the opportunity to say, well, you're overweight and you shouldn't be driving that vehicle, even though you shouldn't be driving that vehicle if you are overweight. But that's how I always do it. I just ask them to weigh the vehicle. How do you deal with visiting towns and cities whilst you've got a dog in tow? I don't very much. And that was something actually that was really interesting in Iceland, because obviously it's outdoors so much, and he would can you see this state of this dog? It's ridiculous. He would have loved Iceland. I was gutted I couldn't take him. Oh, by the way, talking about ChatGPT, which we weren't, but I was earlier, it keeps coming up with a lot of information that is incorrect. And I did a test on ChatGPT. Can you take a dog to Iceland? And it told me I could. And you can't, but you can, but you're gonna have to temporarily import them, which then involves 2 weeks quarantines and all that stuff. So if you do use ChatGPT to research your travels, make sure that you actually look elsewhere as well. But traveling with a dog is really tough, especially if you're going in the summer when it's warm and you want to go places like castles and cities and towns where they're not always allowed in. I tend to not do that, which in turn means I don't spend all that much money in shops in towns and cities, which is good, but it also means that I'm not leaving him in the vehicle. If I do have to leave him in the vehicle, I tend to go first thing in the morning or last thing at night when it's cooler, and I open all of the things, and I have a little camera which I can put up and make sure that he's okay, and I never leave him more than an hour and a half. And unfortunately that often means that I can't go into as many castles as I want to go to. I went into Hever Castle last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was. Hever Castle, magic. If you've never been, it's where Anne Boleyn was born, or where she was where she grew up, and it was just fantastic. But they allowed dogs around the gardens, so I was able to take him. We could go around all the gardens apart from the water area, which was really good fun. He loved that, and then I popped him back in the van when he was tired and he'd had a run around, and then I went into the actual main castle, and it was really cool. So that was a fun way of doing it. And a lot of places, like National Trust places, will allow dogs on leads around the grounds, and then you can pop them back in the vehicle as long as it's not crazy hot. Right, my lovely lot. What have we got here? Because those are all the questions that I have got. Nikki says we're going to Scotland for 2 weeks. Aaron Kinter. Scotland. I love Scotland. I cannot wait. Leah, who's moderating at the moment, she's working on a site up there, and I keep meaning to go up and see her. But it just looks amazing. I love it. Top tier for the critter. Take a picture of your V5, then email it to yourself. The official website needs a really small resolution picture. It does. What you can also do is, if you take a photo, you can get an app that will then create it into a PDF for yourself, and then you can store that in one of your photo paperwork and stuff, so you've always got it. And I recommend, because you've got a tour with the original V5 anyway, I highly recommend that you take a photograph or a photocopy and email it to yourself. However you want to do it, make sure you've got a copy of it on your phone. Oh, thanks, Leah. Just come back from Europe for 2 days. My best advice for anyone is to forget the cities altogether. It's tough because the history in European cities is amazing. Like, I really want to do Berlin. I was talking with Berlin about someone the other day, and I really the history, like Barcelona is incredible, Paris is gorgeous, and there are so many amazing cities in Europe that I would never want to put anyone off visiting them. But when you've got a dog, it can be quite difficult. So maybe do it in a way where you travel and do like a weekend in the cities and then do your longer tours in with the dog. I don't know. There's got to be a better way. Maybe we need to set up a club where one person will watch somebody's dog, and then they can go do touring, and then they watch their dogs the next day. Maybe we need to do that. Dog sitting. Yeah, I will do. Right, I think that's all my questions. If you have got any more and you're watching the replay, hi, then drop them below and I'll do my best to answer them. If not, I hope you all have an amazing evening. Do come and say hi if you are in Malvern. Come and get a sticker and just come and enjoy the show, because it will be a lot of fun. And if not, I will see you on the other side. Take care. Bye.